Hi, I'm Toussaint Morrison, and thank you so much for tuning in to Rethink, a series powered by Patreon. You can find the Patreon link below to support more videos like these where you can suggest topics and subjects for us to talk about and invite others to rethink. For this episode, we're going to rethink Line 3. And yes, we're talking about the giant oil pipeline that you've heard about in the news, Line 3. Line 3 by itself is an oil sands pipeline that goes from Alberta, Canada to Superior, Wisconsin. The original Line 3 was built in 1968, and the new Line 3 was proposed in 2014 to largely increase the volume of oil being transported from Alberta to Superior, and also built because the old one is falling apart. What's an oil sands pipeline, you ask? Well, an oil sands pipeline is a pipeline that transports heavy crude oil mixed with sand, clay, and bitumen. All of these components are highly toxic, heavy, and difficult to extract oil from. So we're dealing with a very dense and toxic mixture of compounds being transported 1,031 miles. Now, what's the value in oil sands? Well, anything you want to use petroleum for. Gasoline, plastic, jet fuel, Vaseline, diesel, heavy fuel oil. The list goes on if you have a jet that needs jet fuel. The question is, who is Line 3 most valuable to, and what is the overall cost? As for the owners that directly benefit from Line 3, bear with us, this is about to get crazy. Line 3 is owned by Enbridge. Enbridge was founded by Imperial Oil. Imperial Oil has 69.6% of its shares owned by ExxonMobil. This is important to know because many of these oil companies are interconnected. Dig further and you'll find they share CEOs, board members, and investors. For example, Al Monaco, CEO of Enbridge, is also a board member on Weyerhaeuser, a lumbering company. So the dude that runs Enbridge is also an extremely powerful part of a company that takes down forests. He's also a board member of Alliance Pipeline. That's a pipeline from Northwest Alberta to Illinois that's owned by Enbridge and Fort Chicago Energy Partners, which is Verizon, which is owned by Pembina Pipeline. Now in 2000, Pembina doubled its size overnight when it took over Federated Pipelines Limited in a $340 million deal from a group headed by Imperial Oil. This is what we're talking about. Instead of Pepe de Silva, it's more like Pembina de Silva. This is like Usual Suspects, except everybody is Kaiser Sose. Also, take into account that multiple energy companies can split ownership of pipelines, making it an even bigger mess, a harder to navigate paper trail, and divided accountability in case something goes wrong. However, for Line 3, there's only one owner, Enbridge. And what does Enbridge stand to make on Line 3? Well, as Line 3 stands currently, Enbridge transports 390,000 barrels of crude oil per day, which is approximately valued at $28,317,900. I'll say that one more time. $28,317,900 of product is what Enbridge stands to transport through Line 3. That's what it is right now. With the projected new Line 3, that daily value of crude oil that Enbridge will transport is $55,183,600 worth of crude oil. And that's the payoff for Enbridge. And here's the cost for everyone else. Well, let's start on March 3rd, 1991. Enbridge spilled 1.7 million gallons of oil in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, resulting in the largest ever domestic inland oil spill in the United States. Enbridge is responsible for one of the largest ecological disasters in the United States, and these are the people that are promoted like this. The most shovel-ready project in Minnesota. Replacing Line 3 can boost Minnesota's economy now. The language here and whoever is promoting Line 3 is extremely misleading. Shovel-ready just means they're ready to work. Technically, your dog is shovel-ready, but you don't need to give it millions of dollars to start digging in the backyard. As for boosting Minnesota's economy, Line 3 will be boosting the pockets of Al Monaco and the spider web of billionaires interconnected to Enbridge. $30 million will go to Minnesota properties annually and $150 million in payroll to local workers. To put that into context, the amount of money that's boosting the Minnesota economy is what Enbridge transports in oil within less than a week. So there it is. Those are the only perceivable benefits. Now back to the damage. February 19th, 2004, Enbridge's Line 2 spilled 42,000 gallons of oil. 5.7 million gallons have spilled from the Lakehead line since 1971. Now, Lakehead was Enbridge's old name for this series of pipelines, just to put that into context as well. This is also important to point out about Enbridge's character. When Enbridge spilled 1.7 million gallons of oil in 1991, they originally said 630,000 gallons of oil spilled. However, by the time the cleanup had finished, it was well over 3 times that amount. So Enbridge has a history of lying about its own spills a lot, and has a pretty decisive negative ecological impact. This brings us to today. As we record this on September 19th, Enbridge has just been ordered by the DNR to pay $3.32 million after they breached the confining layer of an artesian aquifer, which has sprung 24.2 million gallons of water. Enbridge was supposed to dig 8 to 10 feet. However, they dug 18 feet and have now wasted 24.2 million gallons of water. What's an aquifer, you ask? Well, it's where we get our water. So Enbridge wasted 24.2 million gallons of drinking water and didn't really tell anyone about it since they failed to notify the DNR. And the breach was only noticed by an independent monitor. And we're only mentioning a few spills. We don't have time to get to all of them because we need to get to the most important point. The new Line 3 would violate the treaty rights of the Anishinaabe people, also known as the Ojibwe and Chippewa. The 1837 treaty states, quote, "The privilege of hunting, fishing, and gathering the wild rice upon the lands, the rivers, and the lakes included in the territories ceded is guaranteed to the Indians," which is obviously an outdated term. Given these terms, the Anishinaabe should have a say in the terms of Line 3, yet haven't. Not a shocker, because the United States has a history of not honoring treaties. More specifically, land-owning white men do not have a great track record with honoring treaties. And that's not even going into the fact that a lot of these treaties were made with the intention of screwing over the indigenous population out of the land. Each of those treaties sheared off more and more land for white settlers and colonizers. And so, here we are today, a new Line 3 that will benefit a multi-billion-dollar company in Enbridge, destroy countless acres of ecological life, violate indigenous treaties, undoubtedly spill more oil, pollute drinking water, kill animals, put over 200 bodies of water at risk, and leave behind the old Line 3 to rot into the ground with no exit strategy. And this is not to mention the 788 positive COVID cases that were found in Enbridge staff, the 4 Enbridge employees caught sex trafficking, and the $30 million owed in a property tax dispute to Enbridge from Minnesota. To wrap up, there are a litany of complexities and ambiguities going on with Line 3, which is why it's important for us to pay attention. Enbridge benefits from the complexity. The less you know, the more they can get away with.